Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar on automating data quality gates in a medallion architecture. I am Michael Calabrese, an account executive and senior solutions architect with RTTS, the parent company of QuerySurge. Joining me today is my colleague and good friend, Chris Thompson. Chris is also a senior solutions architect and an expert in the data testing domain. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to type them into the chat window. And if you experience any issues or problems during the session, please use the same chat window to notify us so that we can address them. Thank you again for your time and participation. Now let's get started. So we'll first start by talking a little bit about the Databricks platform, which we'll be working with today. It's a cloud-based platform designed for big data analytics, built on Apache Spark, and integrates tightly with the big three cloud storage and computing services, AWS, Azure, and Google, among others. What does Databricks do? Well, it is a unified analytics platform combining data engineering, data science, and business analytics workflows, all built on the Lakehouse architecture and providing notebook interface, which supports collaborative coding with SQL, Python, and others. And of course, machine learning and AI capabilities. And as we'll see today, automation as well. We'll be talking and focusing on the medallion architecture, which is a data design pattern used to organize and manage data into three incrementally refined layers, starting with the bronze layer. So this is going to be your landing zone where you ingest all of your raw and unfiltered data, whether it's from logs, streams, or third-party JSONs and CSV files. They all come into the architecture at the bronze layer. Then we have the silver layer, and this is where some of the refining and cleaning and enriching of the data happens. This is to prepare it for data analysis and downstream use in the final layer, which is our gold layer here. So this is where the business level aggregation happens. There is high level data products, things like BI reports and dashboards are going to be feeding from this gold layer here. So this is going to be viewed by your end users, your stakeholders, and any issues that propagate through to this layer will have high impact and high visibility. So as we'll see today, it's important to catch those issues early on before they get to this gold layer. So some benefits of using the medallion architecture are, one, its modularity, so the separation of the different processes of ingestion, cleaning, and analytics. The data lineage, the ability to track data across the different layers, and then as we'll see today in the demo, the ability to enforce governance or data validation. And of course, with Databricks, the scalability and Lakehouse design. We'll talk just a bit about QuerySurge, which is the market leader in automating your data validation and ETL testing. It allows you to quickly detect data issues, dramatically increase data validation coverage, leveraging analytics to optimize your data, and all of that together provides a huge ROI. QuerySurge supports 6 main use cases. For today, we'll be focusing in on mainly the DevOps and DataOps pipelines, but all of these use cases are available to accomplish with the QuerySurge tool. The way QuerySurge works is it can connect to any 2 data points at one time. That can be anything from your traditional databases such as SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, to things like flat files, Excel files, JSON files, as well as data warehouses and data lakes, and as we'll see today, Databricks. The way it works is it pulls result sets from both your source and target results, data points, data stores, compares them to identify any differences, and then reports out on those differences. So testers, stakeholders, developers are all notified in case anything does go wrong. Your traditional data landscape may look something like this, where you're ingesting data from different source systems that may go to a big data lake. And data moves throughout this system. And the way the data movements are defined are by mapping requirements. And that's what the ETL developers, the data architects, or the pipeline administrators will use to define how the data moves between each of these systems. And anytime data is moving, that's an area where issues can arise. So from the data testing perspective, that's what we view as testing points. So anytime data is moving from one system to another, we can utilize QuerySurge to point to those two systems and identify any issues as they come up. Testers themselves will use those same mapping requirements to develop their tests. And with QuerySurge, you can point them to any systems or data stores in your architecture to validate the movement as they proceed through or progress through. QuerySurge itself is comprised of several different components. It all starts with projects, which is where you define your assets. It is a nice way to organize your testing efforts amongst different groups you may have within your architecture. And then to develop the tests, we have our Query Wizard, our design library, and our QuerySurge AI components, all with the idea of helping to speed up the design and development of your data tests. Once your tests are developed, you can group them together and run them for different areas of your architecture in our scheduling component. Any real-time or historical executions can be viewed in our runtime dashboard. And then once the runs are complete, you can report out on those runs using our data intelligence reports or data analytics dashboards. We'll be focusing today on our DevOps for Data module, which is an industry-leading data testing solution with over 60 plus API calls and almost 100 different properties that you can utilize to retrieve, edit, update, or delete assets within QuerySurge. And this integrates nicely with any of your continuous integration or ETL solutions or pipelines, as we'll see today, as well as any test management or issue tracking solutions that can make and receive RESTful API calls. And built into QuerySurge is Swagger API documentation, which we'll also get a look at today to help make that process that much easier. Now, for the Medallion architecture and where QuerySurge will fit in, will act as essentially a data quality gate. So as you ingest data, as data is promoted through these different layers, we want to utilize QuerySurge as a gatekeeper. So if tests are run and they pass, everything looks good, we want to then promote to the next layer. If we do detect an issue, we want to make sure we halt and alert users or developers or testers to that issue, and then stop the propagation of data through the system so that data and bad data does not reach those higher levels. So how does this work? Well, it's going to be easy as 1, 2, 3 here, where we can first embed QuerySurge in your orchestration pipeline using our DevOps for Data API. Specifically, we'll be focusing in today on the execution and results calls in our API that we'll take a look at. And then in our pipeline stage, we'll only want to allow for data promotion if our QuerySurge validations test pass. So this is a way to for QuerySurge to act as a data quality data validation gate to prevent that data propagation. And the benefits to doing this is the automated enforcement of those quality policies. And as I mentioned, early detection of those issues following the CI/CD paradigm. And with QuerySurge, every test that you run is stored and preserved in the QuerySurge system, providing enterprise level reporting. So any historical tests that you may have run on older pipelines runs, you can always look back, review, and provide an audit trail for that. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our demonstration. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'll bring you into our test environment. So right now I have a Databricks test environment set up here. We have a small set of tables in here. This is obviously scaled down for demonstration purposes. I imagine production employments that everyone on the call is dealing with are much larger. But we're focusing in on here on a single example just to get the idea across for the demo. We have a bronze table here that's taking in some raw customer information. Our silver layer here, the silver data table, has some cleansing and enhancement of that data, so we can see that some of the malformed emails have been removed. We have some transformations involved. And then finally, we have our gold layer level here, where we're looking at an aggregation of all the information from the previous levels, where we're reporting out on the different demographics of our customers and focusing in on the recent signups per region here. Now, as we discussed during the slide presentation, the way data moves between each of these different layers is by a mapping documentation, maybe something similar to what you see here, where we're defining the schema of each layer. We're defining how that data should move. So cleaning up the emails in this case, deduping the emails, as well as doing some transformations on our country values that we see here. Now, how does this all translate to what we do in QuerySurge? I'll pull up our QuerySurge instance, which, as we can see here, is connected to our Databricks instance via the connection dropdown for our query pair and our source and our target side. And I want to ask my colleague here, Chris Thompson. Chris, when you get a mapping document that we're looking at here, what's the best practices to sort of translate that into a query pair test like we're looking at right now?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So the best practice here is to mimic the transformation in your SQL. In this case, Mike's decided to do it on the source side, which is a recommendation, versus the target side, which you could do. However, we always recommend doing it on the source side. In this case, the source side being the bronze layer and the target side being the silver layer. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And yeah, as you can see, the different transformations that we were observing in the mapping document, we've implemented in the SQL here. So the transformation of the country codes, the deduping of the emails, as well as the formatting are all included in our SQL statement here to try and align with what our expectation is for those data mappings. And with every query pair, we have what we call a design time run. So this is useful as you're developing your query pairs. You maybe want to do a one-off ad hoc run to see what type of results you're getting back. You can see this initial run here. We did get some failures. The design time run tab offers a results view window here. So if I were to bring this up, we can see that we have all of our source bronze data here, all of our target silver data displayed here, and any of those failures that we were observing. So we can see them in a side-by-side comparison, bronze on the left, silver on the right. First few fields look good, but if I do scroll over to the right here, we see we have an issue with our country code transformation here. We do have 6,000 plus failures, so I can view them all in here. What I like to do is also go over to the results analytics tab, and this is a great sort of one-page view into the overall results of this single query pair. So here we can see at a row, a cell, and a column level where our issues lie. So what I want to do as a data tester is just make sure that all the issues that I'm seeing here, it seems now looking at the other columns, they're all localized to country code. So with that information now, I can go reach out to the developers, go reach out to the stakeholders and let them know that we have an issue with this particular field. All the other fields themselves are passing, they look good. Really a quick and easy way to narrow down your result analysis and get the information out to the people who need it to perform those fixes. Now, this is just a single test. As I mentioned earlier, I'm sure in production environments, we're dealing with many more tables, larger schemas, larger data sets. So when we encounter or when we're ready to, let's say, integrate with a pipeline, as our goal is today, we want to come over to our scheduling component here. So within the scheduling component, we can bring together any number of query pairs that we have created. Obviously, as I mentioned, for our demonstration purposes, we just have this single test. But if I had 10, 100, 1,000 tables that I needed to validate, I can bring them all in here from my design library into this test suite. And then when I kick them off, either by running them now or scheduling them or using a pipeline, they will all run at the same time. So I can validate an entire layer or a section of a layer all in one test run. So the way we want to approach integrating running these tests with our pipeline is via our DevOps for Data API. And every QuerySurge instance comes built in with Swagger documentation. So for our existing customers out there, if you wanted to view your Swagger documentation for your instance, all you need to do is append rest-docs to the end of your QuerySurge URL, and you'll be presented with a screen like you see here. And in here, it'll list out all of the available calls with the DevOps for Data module that you can make. The great thing about the Swagger documentation is you can expand any one of these tabs, and it will give you information on how to construct and build your API calls. It'll tell you exactly what you need to provide those API calls. You can see example values in here. You can come over to the schema section and get information on the different assets that are available in those calls and what they mean. And you can actually execute them live directly from your Swagger documentation. So with all that Swagger documentation information, I was able to develop and configure the pipeline that you see here in Azure DevOps. So the workflow that we're going to have is we have a pipeline in Azure DevOps that I've just executed. This pipeline that you see here is then going to go ahead and reach out to Databricks. As you see here, it's going to then trigger a Databricks job to start moving data from our bronze to our silver layer. Once that job is triggered, we'll wait for that job to complete. And then once that job has completed, we can then kick off our QuerySurge tests. And this is where the QuerySurge is going to act like a gatekeeper here, because we're going to kick off the QuerySurge test. We're going to wait for the results. And then depending on the results, we're going to make a decision on whether or not to progress to the next layer. So once this job completes, we'll start the authentication step here in QuerySurge. Every API call that you make with QuerySurge does require a session ID. So within the Swagger documentation API, which we can take a look back in just a moment, we'll see how that all works. So we can see that we are running the test now. We're waiting for the results. If I were to come back into QuerySurge, I can go ahead and see in our runtime dashboard that the test is actually going ahead and running now. It's 50% complete. Once this completes, we'll pass that result back to our Azure DevOps pipeline and then make a decision on whether or not to proceed. And you can see here that our test has failed. We get the same view that we're seeing in the Design Time Run tab in the Runtime dashboard, and we can view those same types of failures here. So we can see that there's obviously an issue with the country code, and based on that, our pipeline has ended. It has ended with a failure. We've decided not to progress on. I know exactly where that failure is, so I'm just going to make a quick adjustment here for our translations and then rerun our pipeline. And once we do that, we should be able to then see the test pass and have us progress on to the next pipeline in the process here. While that is running, I'll just talk a bit about how we notify users for these test runs. So I have, for this particular test, set up a email notification, one going out from my Azure DevOps pipeline, which sends me notifications about the pipeline itself. But with QuerySurge, we also have the capability to send out email notifications, among others, to let users or stakeholders know the results of the particular test that was run. So anytime we do encounter an issue, we want to make sure everyone's notified. They're notified immediately. So we have the capability in QuerySurge to set up these type of notifications to send out to anyone in your organization. We also have the capability, in addition to email notifications, to send out things like webhooks. So instead of sending out an email, if you wanted to update a Teams channel, a Slack channel, create a ServiceNow incident, if that's what you're utilizing on your site, all those are possible and can be configured in the same way as the email notification to trigger when certain events happen in QuerySurge, when certain failures are present. So sort of completing the DevOps, the data ops mentality of automatically notifying users, keeping everyone in the loop, and having things trigger and run automatically, and keeping everyone informed. So we can see that the bronze to silver pipeline is running. We are just waiting for the result, which just has completed. And in this case, you can see we have a pass now. So what I would then expect to happen is, since that data quality gate has passed, we can now move on to our silver to gold pipeline. So everything progressing along now as it should. Our issue was addressed and identified. The fix was implemented. We've re-triggered our pipelines, and now data can then progress on to the next level. And we can have those same types of checks in place for our silver to gold comparison. We'll run again a test suite, which would be a scenario that we should see kick off shortly after our silver to gold Databricks job triggers. And then that will give us the confidence at the gold level to tell our stakeholders, to tell our end users, that the data you're looking at has been validated all the way through our medallion architecture here. And we could see that that test is now kicked off and running. And the way to set this up, working with your operations teams, working with those who are involved in the pipelines, is to point them towards this Swagger documentation. As we were seeing, we're using both the execution and we're using this particular detailed results call here. And in here, you can get any number of points of key information about your test runs. So for my sample pipeline here, I was mainly focusing on the outcome of the execution. If I wanted to drill down into particular query pair results, particular columns that we're seeing in those results, maybe there's a field that I'm more interested in and I want to programmatically check on that field, you have the full capability of doing that with our DevOps for Data API. And this way you can get a little bit more nuance with your checks and diving down deep into those result sets there. And if I come back to our pipeline here, we see that everything has passed, everything is complete. We have, for today at least, a successful promotion of our data to the gold layer. And obviously with pipelines, I'm triggering them manually, but whatever your schedule is for promoting your data, whether it's daily, hourly, or event-based, all of that can happen automatically and completely integrated with your QuerySurge solution here. So really powerful addition here with the DevOps for Data REST API to be able to give you that capability within your testing process to really go along the paradigm of the CI/CD, or continuous integration, continuous deployment, and DevOps and data. And then that concludes the live demonstration portion here, and I will start the slideshow back at where we left off, just to give everyone some information if they are interested in trying out QuerySurge for themselves. We offer a number of different trial options. And if you are interested in learning more about QuerySurge, we have a content and training portal with a free code that you see at the bottom here, CERT June 25. So anyone listening on this webinar, please feel free to use that code CERT to sign up for free courseware here. And we have courses on everything from certified ETL testing to focus on DevOps for Data here, where you can learn more about our RESTful API. You have actual live labs that you can do against a QuerySurge instance to gain more information and understand a lot about what I've talked about in this webinar here. Really great stuff up there. So anyone interested, I suggest signing up and giving it a try. And with that, we'll take some questions now. So I'll open up the floor. Chris, do we have any questions from the audience today here?
We do have a few questions here, Mike. I'll go ahead and start with the first one. Can this approach that you showed today be used for architectures that are not Medallion?
Yeah, great question. I know our focus was specifically on the Medallion architecture, but I feel like the Medallion architecture itself evolved from practices that we see implemented earlier on or across the industry. So anytime you're moving data, whether it's the bronze, the silver to the gold, or dev to staging, or to UAT to prod, the same concepts can be applied. So if you have a pipeline or a scheduler or an orchestration system that is moving data and it can handle or make RESTful API calls, which most all of them can, you can follow the same paradigm here and implement gate checks or quality checks anytime you move data and integrate it with your DevOps systems.
All right, thanks, Mike. The next question is, I suppose it's a QuerySurge user that saw the result and analytics tab that they apparently don't have in their version of QuerySurge. Was that a new feature that was added?
Yes. One of our newer features, I think 2 releases ago, so QuerySurge 14.0, that was when the results analytics tab was introduced. We're getting a lot of great feedback on that. So yeah, if you don't see that tab, I would suggest getting onto the latest version of QuerySurge. Starting with 14.0 was when that was introduced. I believe we're up to 14.1 now, which also has that tab available. So reach out to your QuerySurge account executive. They'll be more than happy to help you out with the upgrade there.
All right, thanks, Mike. Next one. What tips do you have for teams just starting to implement automated data validation?
Yeah, great question. it can seem daunting at first, right? I mean, my little example here was pretty streamlined and small, but I know in production implementations they can be quite large. My recommendation is always to start small. Pick a section or a table or a field that is most important, and branch out from there. And as far as getting up to speed on working with QuerySurge or ETL testing in general, as I mentioned before, we are offering a free certification code for our content integrating portal. There's a lot of great information on there on how to get started, how to get up to speed, and some great takeaways. So highly recommend going that route if you're just getting started.
All right, thanks, Mike. Next one, can QuerySurge be integrated with Azure Data Factory pipelines?
Yeah, so if Azure Data Factory pipelines have the capability to reach your QuerySurge instance, that should be doable. The main thing to understand here is the API is initiated by RESTful API calls. So if you have network connectivity from your Data Factory to your QuerySurge instance, then you should be able to implement those.
All right, thanks, Mike. Next one. Do you support the testing of BI reports that would display from the gold layer?
Yes, yeah. So that's a good question, right? So the gold layer mainly is for business consumption, and usually that would be displayed in some type of BI report. So we do have a BI tester module that you can bring into QuerySurge, and that will allow you to connect to a number of different BI technologies, including Power BI, MicroStrategy, Tableau, I think Oracle and SAP. Among those, to be able to connect QuerySurge directly to your BI report and then connect it directly to your gold layer and make sure that what's being displayed in your BI report matches what your expectation is in the data behind the scenes.
Great. Next one is there any limitation on how much data QuerySurge can test?
QuerySurge does not impose any inherent limit on the data that you can test. QuerySurge is not a SaaS solution. It is installed on a server in your system, behind your firewalls, behind your network. So it really amounts to how much hardware you provide the QuerySurge application. Obviously, the larger the data sets, the more hardware you want behind the scenes. But the application itself does not impose any limits on the data you can test.
Thanks, Mike. And there was a question about who they contact if somebody wants a POC or more information. And I believe Liz stuck a link in the chat to be able to do so. And I'll add the last question I have here. Other than the email and webhook notifications, how can stakeholders gain visibility into the results inside QuerySurge?
Yeah, great question. And then, yeah, I think I can't see the link, but yeah, on our website, there's information on how to sign up for a free demo or a free POC. And I'm sure Liz provided the proper channels there. And as far as the last question, the ability for users to get a glimpse into the result sets in QuerySurge, I did show the ability to send out webhooks and email notifications. But let's say you have a developer or a stakeholder who wants to dive into the results, maybe take a look at that results view table. We do have the concept of what we call participant users. So these are not users that are data testers, not someone that's going to be developing and executing the tests, but wants to view those results. They can be assigned a participant user license, be able to log into QuerySurge, and go to those same results view windows that I saw in there and the results analysis as well. So very useful feature if, let's say, you're creating a bug, you're assigning it to developer, they want to see the result sets. If they had a participant user license, they'll be able to quickly and easily log into QuerySurge and view those results, get the information that they need. And does that do it, Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I have no further questions for you today.
All right, great. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for attending. I hope this was informative. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you have any other questions or want more information, head on over to QuerySurge.com. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for joining. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.